She's the baddest boo with the natural do. She's taking the talents to the new YouTube. If you like her style, please don't bite. Give it a thumbs up, comment, and please subscribe.
Alright, so now I really wanted to transition into the emotional aspects of nursing and your compassion, and how compassion fatigue is definitely something that can happen. One thing that I've learned, because I am on a wing where, there's oncology patients, there's Baker-active patients, there are people who are terminal, so they have already put them on hospice, and it can be very, very difficult. It is emotionally taxing, and it's just a lot. Like, honestly, this morning, after I got a chance to rest from the last 2 days of working, which were very busy and very exhausting, but very rewarding, I was able to really reflect back on all of my patients and just think about the medical conditions that they're facing. And a lot of them did have cancer. Actually, all of them did. And it was just really sad, like, especially with the family members when they're there and they're talking to me about, like, oh yeah, like, we've been married for this many years, or we have this many children together, and to see their children up there, and they'll tell me, like, yeah, like, my parent used to be so strong or so active and so lively, and they used to love doing this, and they had this as their favorite hobby. And now, like, you see their patient, and the patient is cachectic, and they're barely able to move around because they're so weak from chemotherapy or just from the cancer, like, riddling their body. And it's just having that, like, when you really take a step back and you realize the reality of all of it, it's really emotionally taxing on you. And you do have to learn to kind of, like, separate that a little bit. And I'm not saying, like, you should willingly grow cold, but you do have to be stronger in those situations, because your patients are already in a very difficult situation, and so are their family members. And although I can say, yes, it is okay to cry, it is okay to feel emotional about certain situations, because we're all humans. That's just part of human nature. Make sure you try not to do that in front of your patients and their families, because you do have to be their rock. Emotionally, they're going through a lot. Physically, they're going through a lot. Mentally, they're definitely going through a lot, especially if they've already been given the news that they're terminal and they may not have many more days left to live. So it's, like I said, it's okay to cry, and it's okay to let those emotions out. Just make sure it's like with your coworkers, where they understand. Make sure you have that person you can vent to who understands completely. Don't go home to your spouse who works in construction or works in something that's totally unrelated to healthcare and they don't get it, because there are going to be things where they're just going to be like, you know what, like, I'm not comfortable with you telling me about that. That's not going to help your situation. So you need to go to that person that is also in the healthcare industry, and you can vent to and say, hey, like, all of these things happened today. It was a rough day for me. I'm really upset about it. Or this patient is on their way out, and it really like tugged on my heartstrings, and I really just want to cry about it with somebody. Can I cry about it with you? Those people are going to be the ones who understand and get you through those hard days. But you should also take some of those days that you really, like, found a patient who touched your heart, or you just found a situation that really, like, hit home, and use that and kind of put that in your memory bank, because there are going to be days when you have compassion fatigue and you're just like, ugh, this patient is screaming for pain medications again. I can't believe I have to deal with this. And you're going to completely forget, like, if you're in pain, if you're in that situation, you would want to be medicated. You can't look at every single person as medication seeking or attention seeking, because not everybody is like that. And you also have to go back to those things that really put you into this career. Like, remind yourself, why did I go into this career? What is going to drive me to keep going to work every day? And don't say the money, because it ain't the money. You have to know that it's, maybe you had a family member who had some really bad illness, and they're driving you to continue in your career. Or you had, like, an experience yourself where, you may have come to a near-death experience and all of the healthcare professionals that took care of you were so compassionate and so nice to you that they helped you through. Just think back to that thing that keeps you motivated, and that'll help you through your compassion fatigue. And honestly, when you feel that way, it's time for you to take a break. If you are an older nurse and you've been in the field for a really, really long time, you guys may have to really sit back and think about retirement, because if you've gotten to the point where even vacations don't work anymore and thinking about those things that drove you before doesn't help anymore, maybe it is time for retirement or shifting your focus in a new area. If you have been in oncology for a long time and you're starting to get tired of all the things, maybe it's time to go into something else, like maybe mother baby or whatever else that drives you. So those are things that I wanted to discuss. So just know that while you are in the beginning stages of nursing, that you have to crawl before you walk. It's not going to be an overnight thing where like, all right, like I finished my preceptorship. I know so much more than I did when I first started. So I'm good. I'm going to be on my own. I got this. Yes, go in with that attitude that you got it and that you're confident in your abilities, but also know your limitations, because you are going to have a lot of different questions, because certain things are going to pop up that you did not do on your own, or maybe you did it once and your preceptor kind of held your hand through it. I know that's going to happen to me, for example, and now you have to do it on your own. So make sure that you are comfortable asking those questions and you are comfortable with what you know and what you don't know, because there are going to be a lot of things that you don't know, and it's okay. Like, we're all going to get through it together, because it's all a team effort. And one last thing I also want to say, like, when it comes to calling doctors, I'm on day shift, so like I'm kind of lucky, but it's not as bad as people make it out to be. I know that's like some people's anxiety, like, oh, I have to call the doctor for something, but it's okay. Most of my doctors have been extremely nice to me. Like, there have been a few times where the doctors have been like a little bit impatient and they're just like questioning like why hasn't certain things been done. But for the most part, like, they've been really good and they've been very responsive and they've helped me make sure that the patient is okay. With that, I also want to say, don't be afraid to be authoritative. You are the nurse in this position, which means you are basically in charge of all this patient's care. You are spending the most time with this patient, and you are the one who is responsible for advocating for this patient. If there is something wrong with your patient, do not be afraid to advocate for them and to report that there's something wrong. I know in nursing school, they teach us that, like, okay, like, we want to hear clear breath sounds. We want to make sure the heart has S1 and S2. We want to make sure that everything is normal. And if there's any abnormalities, like, we have to think about what we should do about them. But like, when you actually get in the field, if something's wrong, you're just like, oh, what am I gonna do? And you kind of do like a little bit of a panic, but it's okay to sit there and really evaluate the situation and say, all right, my patient's O2 saturation is going down to 87. I've checked it quite a few times, and for some reason, there's nothing that can be done. They don't have a history of COPD, no other respiratory illnesses, and now they're starting to become cyanotic, and I feel like I need to call rapid response. Call that rapid response. Don't be afraid to sit there and make sure that your patient does not continue desatting and getting to a point where it's of no return. We don't want that. So if there's something wrong, it's better to do something and do an intervention for the patient than to not do something and then sit there and be like, oh man, like, that patient could have survived. That patient didn't have to be in that much critical condition had I acted earlier. So like I said, like, you take authority. That was something I was kind of afraid to do in the beginning, because I was sitting there like, all right, like, I know some things, but I'm not completely 100% comfortable with all these things. But now, like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, all right, like, I know my patient shouldn't be having this much trouble breathing. So I need to do something about that. And I need to tell the doctor, I need to tell my chargers, I need to tell somebody. I need to make sure that once my patient becomes stable, that I'm going in there and taking their vital signs, or at least have the PCA going in there and taking their vital signs. So that way, we're all on top of it, and the patient will remain stable, at least under my care. And I let them know in the shift report, keep an eye on this patient because this happened during the day. So I hope all of this was very helpful for you guys. I also wish everyone the best. If you're just now starting, I wish you the best because you were hand selected for this position, and I am very proud that you are a part of our team of nurses. So welcome to the career, and you guys all enjoy. Everybody stay safe. I know we have some spikes in COVID, so all of you out there, like, I hope that everyone is better prepared for this round of the COVID spikes, and that everyone is still able to remain safe and does not contract COVID while you're caring for these patients, and you're able to keep your family safe. So with flu season and COVID and all these respiratory illnesses floating around, I just hope that everybody is able to be okay and healthy, and you guys just take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.